Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome. We're super excited about this talk today. This is our first talk in our communication skills series, which will help you be a better conservationist ultimately. So I'm Ciel Vaughan. I work with Chess Green Africa, and I'll be your host for today's event. And a massive welcome to everyone joining online, and also to our students from Toronto University of Technology, who are our primary audience. And of course, Dr. Ogilvie as well. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to go through some of the key learning outcomes for our presentation today. So we'd like for you to be able to understand the key elements of communication, including sender, message, channel, and feedback. We'd like you to be able to identify and differentiate between verbal, non-verbal, interpersonal, intrapersonal, and intercultural communication. To analyze major communication models like Shannon's, interactive and transactional models. And finally, to be able to apply key communication theories, such as agenda setting, cultivation, uses, and gratifications. So now on to our speaker today. Our speaker today is Dr. Sekonawo. We're really excited to have her in today. She's been a lecturer for over 23 years at the University of Lilongwe in communication. And just a quick point that unfortunately Dr. Sekonawo's video is not working. So we won't be able to see her wonderful face, but it is the nature of the work that we do here. So thank you so much, Dr. Kasia. We're really excited to have you here, and I'm going to hand over to you now for our presentation.
As I have been introduced, my name is Dr. Sekonawo Kasia from Malawi. I've been a lecturer at the Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources for 23 years, teaching communication skills for the first year students, second year, up to fourth year. And I'm also specialized in media studies and gender studies as well. In terms of my educational background, I have a Master of Science in Mass Communication. I also have a Bachelor's in Bachelor of Science in Agriculture Economics. Sorry for that. I should have started with my Bachelor of Science in Agriculture Economics, then which I obtained from Lilongwe University of Agriculture and Natural Resources, then Master of Science in Mass Communication, obtained from Leicester University of the United Kingdom. And then I also did a PhD studies at there in South Africa with University of Johannesburg, which I graduated in 2018. And I'll be taking you through the communication process, models, and theories today. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. All right, so as from the quiz, it was quite an interesting quiz. I have learned that everyone indeed communicates every day. Every second we're communicating, and we're able to get most of the questions correct. How do we define communication? What is the meaning of communication? People have defined communication differently. It's a process of sharing ideas, thoughts, and feelings between people to create meaning. So you note that in the quiz, one of the definition was communication is meant to create meaning. Others have defined communication as the process of sending and receiving messages. Others, the sending of messages. However, the most important aspect is to make sure that people are able to understand each other. People are able to share the thoughts. People are able to share the meaning. Then in that case, we have effective communication. We have successfully communicated. And there are different reasons why we communicate. We communicate to entertain, to socialize, to inform, to educate, motivate, to greet. For example, let's say as a game ranger, you have a tourist you are taking through. It's important that you educate them about the game the game reserve or the safari where you are going into with this particular tourist. So in that case, you are also communicating. When you are with your friends, you are communicating all the time. With your teachers at this moment, we are also communicating. And the ultimate goal is to make sure that we are able to persuade one in the process of communication to shape the receiver's behavior. So one would say, what about when we are greeting? When we're greeting, for example, hi, you also want the other person to respond hi. In that case, you are persuading that person to also say how they are. And similarly, when you look at all the other processes, all the other reasons why we communicate, you'll find that persuasion is key in all the aspects of communication. All right, and there are different types of communication: non-verbal communication, verbal communication, interpersonal communication, intercultural communication, and intrapersonal communication. So as humans, we use all these types of communication. For example, verbal, this is using oral or the spoken word. So when we are speaking, verbal communication, for example, this particular individual in the picture has a microphone and is speaking orally. That is verbal communication. And as you can see, as he is speaking, he's putting emphasis. The tone that he's using is what is helping the message to be heard, for people to understand the message, the emphasis in the message. You are not only listening to the words, but you're also looking at the actions of the speaker, the way the speaker is dressed. That also makes you think at how serious you should take the communication. So that's why we're saying oral communication is always facilitated by nonverbal communication. Other studies have even looked at 90%, 97% of communication is transmitted through the nonverbal communication. So as you are using the spoken word, it is always important to make sure that you are also focusing on the nonverbal part, the tone, how you are pitching your sound, and so forth. So nonverbal communication, this is communicating through signs and symbols. Nonverbal communication can go without verbal communication, while verbal can't go without nonverbal communication. So when you look at the person in the picture, we're able to see that this lady is trying to tell us to keep quiet. And we'll keep quiet. If someone is waving without even saying any word, we are able to know that it's time for us to leave, or this person is leaving. So that is why we're saying that nonverbal communication communicates messages without even words. So examples include gestures like waving, nodding of the head, the dressing. For example, let's say you are going into an interview and you are dressed in a suit, the posture, the proximity, the distance between communicators. For instance, you are trying to speak to your audience, but you are sitting very far away, or you are very close. You are chatting with your friend, and let's say a male and a female person, male-female student, and the female student is giving a lot of distance, or the male student is giving a lot of distance. That is also communication on its own without even saying a word. But if you find that the male and female person, they are holding each other, that is also sending another message even before we hear any word. Eye contact. Again, eye contact is also another form of nonverbal communication. For instance, let's say you are telling a guest that, in this game reserve, we have lions, but you're not looking at the person in the eye. And that is also sending another message to the person, even though they have not you have not interpreted that in this game there are lions that are dangerous. You have not completed the message, but the person is able to interpret, is able to decode that message because of the way you are looking, the eye contact that you are providing, and also the tone. For example, if you are shouting, that also sends a message. So there, as we can see in the picture, there are so many messages that we can interpret from nonverbal communication. For example, in this picture, we have a boss and also a lady there, let's say a secretary. And she tried to greet the boss, but the boss has not acknowledged the greeting. So this particular lady interprets the message that I think this boss is not approachable. Or another person would say, maybe this boss is sad today, or he doesn't want to speak to me, or I'm annoying this person. So we can decode, we always decode messages differently. Like in this case, we have the boss that breathes heavily and waves arms. Then the audience is interpreting, I think he's angry, let me stay out of his way. Or like in this particular case, there's no eye contact while these people are communicating. And lack of eye contact, how does one interpret this? You find that others will say, maybe it is like in Malawi, a mother, like a lady and a father-in-law. Like in another class, the students interpreted it that this should be a lady and a father-in-law that are communicating because of the distance. But you will note that no lady stands very close to the father-in-law like that. So how do we decode this? When there's no eye contact, one is thinking, I wonder what this person is hiding. Maybe he's cheating or what? And also another one, the manager sighs deeply. So like one of the members of the audience has made a presentation and the person sighs deeply. So maybe my opinion doesn't count. That's what the person is thinking. Interpersonal communication. This is communication that occurs between a small group of individuals, typically in a face-to-face setting. So you will note that when you're chatting with your friend, like as we have seen, we can see in the picture, two people sitting there close together, chatting. That is interpersonal communication. Sometimes you have an assignment and you're working in a group. That is also interpersonal communication. Sometimes students working on one assignment, or maybe you are going to work together on holiday on a particular internship, and you have created a group, a WhatsApp group, where all of you are trying to communicate messages, share meanings. That is also a form of interpersonal communication. So as much as we're saying that it is in face-to-face setting, but with the innovations of communication technologies, information and communication technologies, you note that interpersonal communication is also evolving. However, the most effective one is where you are in face-to-face. That is why you find that in most interviews, they will also request that you are meeting face-to-face so that you are able to explain, ask questions. You are able to see the nonverbal behavior of those that are on the panel, and also you, the one that is communicating. They should be able to understand your messages well, as we saw in the quiz that communication is about both the sender and the receiver. It's also known as a relational communication, and participants share a level of familiarity leading to great disclosure of information. So in these small groups, people are able to disclose information, people are able to share information, ask questions, the insecurities that are there, people will ask, one who also is also able to disclose information. So interpersonal communication is very important. This communication allows for more intimate details than with strangers. So for example, if it is not interpersonal communication, let's say you are in class of 100 students, 600 students, you find that in that particular case, you are not able to interact effectively if all of you are strangers. And research shows that nonverbal communication also enhances understanding of messages in face-to-face interaction. So in interpersonal communication, communication is more effective because you are able to interact. You are able to see the nonverbal behavior of your friend. You are able to see that your friend is getting angry, and you're able to ask questions, reverse the situation. Intrapersonal communication. Interpersonal communication, this is communication within an individual or use. Or I'm speaking right now, most of you are having thoughts within your head, considering that you are not able to see me. Or another example is, all right, another example is in the picture, you can see that the person is reading, but they are not speaking out loud. They are reading silently, but that is also communication. There was also one on silent communication. Silent communication is also communication. There's communication that is going on within this individual, depending on what they are reading. And in this case, they are reading a Bible, and communication is taking place. Sometimes when we're walking, let's say you are coming from class, and you are thinking about various things happening in the economy or in politics. And as you are walking, you are also communicating within yourself. Sometimes you are trying to memorize things. So you find that you are even speaking, but you are not speaking to anyone else. You are just trying to remember what you have learned. So that is all internal communication, intrapersonal communication. So when reading a book, one may use their background knowledge or inferencing, which may be contrary to the fact about the book. So you find that as this person is reading this particular Bible, you find that others will interpret it in a different manner because of other things they have learned in school or they have heard from friends or from various backgrounds. So because of inferencing, you find that people may interpret what they're reading differently. And also reading out loud, talking to oneself, all these are forms of intrapersonal communication. Intercultural communication, this is now communication between people of different cultures. As we can see in the picture, we have people from different culture, especially like at Tshwane. I must imagine that there are students coming from various backgrounds, others from other countries with different culture, religion. Intercultural communication is about trying to understand how people from different religion, different countries, cultures act and communicate. How do they perceive the world around them to make sure that we live in peace? So you find that with intercultural communication, we're able to relate well with people from others. When we understand other people's beliefs, their values, their norms, their emotional attitudes, then that is intercultural communication. So basically understanding people's cultures. For example, let's say if someone is eating with their hand, you take it as that those are their values and you accept them. If they are eating sadza with a fork, their values too. So understanding people's culture, their beliefs, their values and norms, their understanding people's dressings and so forth. Next, we'll move on to the communication process loop. So this is a simple model that illustrates all factors that can affect communication. And when we look at the diagram, it illustrates the various elements of communication or the factors that can affect communication. So we have the sender, encoding, channel, decoding, receiver, the noise, and feedback. All these factors affect communication's quality and also effectiveness. So for example, if the sender is not sending the message audible enough, that can affect the message. And also we're going to look all the other factors or the other elements of the communication process. Sender, this is a person who initiates the communication process. And the sender selects the idea, encodes, and finally transmits it into to the receiver through a chosen medium. So you find that the sender may send the message orally or written or through a video, a short video. That is a person that is sending the message initiates the one that is initiating the communication process. And the receiver is the individual who receives the message. The receiver decodes the message or interprets the message to understand it. And when the receiver responds, they become communicators. And communication is successful when the receiver's reaction aligns with the communication intention. So you will note that when the sender has sent a message and the receiver has also responded, and for instance, you are chatting with your friend, it is not easy to say this one now is at this point is the sender, this one at this point is the receiver, but both of you are communicators. Or if there's a group of you, you are communicators because you are sharing messages. So the sender, the one that initiates the communication process, and the receiver is the individual who receives the message, the one who decodes the message, interprets it to understand it. Those codes, the nonverbal communication that has been shared, the verbal communication shared. So the receiver interprets these. Message is the encoded idea transmitted by the sender. So for instance, maybe the idea that you want to share is that maybe stop burning the bushes. Stop burning the bush. Then that is the message that is being sent. The means of communication from the sender to the receiver is the medium. So the medium can be oral, written, or nonverbal communication. And then the channel of communication is the means of transmission, the face-to-face, email, memo. So you note that the oral medium can be face-to-face, can be through a telephone or through video call. And also the written communication, the written medium of communication, it can be through a letter, through an email, a memo, through a WhatsApp message, Facebook, and so forth. Choice of both medium and channel depends on the importance of the message, the needs and ability of the receiver, the amount and speed of feedback, necessity of permanent record. So for instance, let's say when you finish studying for your degree at Tshwane, there's need for a permanent record, a degree. So written communication is the most appropriate form than to just say that, oh, you have finished your degree, or let's clap hands, and then it ends there. Then there's no permanent record. Cost of channel. You also consider cost of channel as you make choices on the channel and the medium. For instance, you are the class representative and you need to communicate with your class. What is the most cost-effective channel? So for instance, maybe through WhatsApp, then you are able to share a message just once and everyone has received the message, and it is also cheap on your side. Formality or informality desired. So you may call for a meeting because there's need for minutes. There's need for a record of the meeting that you attended. So because of that formality, that is desired. For example, in courts, you find that it's always important that people meet at a specific place and also follow specific procedures. So formality or informality desired is what also makes people choose a particular medium or channel of communication. If a message is very important, you make sure that you make a phone call. Let's say your parents, you need to speak with your partner. The message is very important. It needs to be sent immediately. Then in that case, you make sure that you make a phone call or follow up on the message that you sent. The needs and ability of the receiver. In some communities, you find that recipient of the message may not be able to read. You put a poster. You put up a poster to warn people about a specific issue. But the people that are passing by, most of them, they have not been to school. We should not deny from the fact that in Africa, in our countries, there are many people that are not able to read and write. So it is also important to be aware as we choose the medium and the channel to make sure that people are able to read and understand our messages. They are able to receive the message and make meaning out of it. Also, amount of speed and feedback. If you need feedback quickly, then you choose a channel that will help you get that quick speed. And feedback is a response or reaction. And feedback can be loud, for example, yes, or it can be silent. Let's say you have applied for a job, you have sent an application letter, and you receive negative feedback. We regret to inform you that you have not been considered for the position. That is also feedback. Whether it is negative, whether it is positive. For example, if you say something and then people are quiet, then that is also feedback. If you tell your partner, I love you, and the partner is quiet, that is still feedback. Noise. Noise is also another important element in the communication process. And it is any disturbance or interruption in the communication process. And there are different examples of noises that happen in the communication process. And these are some of them: organizational noise, psychological noise, physical noise, physiological noise, environmental, cultural, syntactical, and semantic noise. So organization noise, this is a disturbance in the communication process in that it's to do with bureaucracy, too many levels in the organizational structure, which delays or distorts messages or information. So, for example, let's say you want to ask a question to your lecturer, and then they say, okay, if you want to ask a question to your lecturer, you need to first go through the class representative. Then they have to vet the questions. Then the questions can be sent to the lecturer. That's bureaucracy. and it will delay the message. And also, for instance, maybe we have seen these videos whereby a person first sends a message to one person, then this person has to send it to another in a line. You find that at the end of the line, the message is completely changed or distorted. So you find that as the message goes, it changes. For instance, you have asked a question, and then by the time you are getting feedback, it's totally different. So bureaucracy, yeah, is an organizational noise. Lack of communication policy. So communication policy guides who, where, when, how information should be delivered. And it affects the flow of information within and outside the organization. So you note that, for example, when you are receiving your results at the end of the semester, you know that I have to receive my results through maybe a particular website. And then they say that they have changed. Then it will be difficult for you to be able to access the results. If you want to ask information about the university, you know whom you can ask. But if that person is not clearly established, then you find that there's organizational noise, because you are going to end up asking people that will not provide with you the right information. Conflicting messages. Sometimes you find that organizations working in one area, they are providing different messages. Others are saying, if you bend the bush, then you are able to control weeds and also pests or diseases in the particular field. But you, as a conservation expert, your interest is making sure that the bush is there. That snake should not die in there. So that is also conflicting messages and organization, in a way, organizational noise. Staff located in different buildings. So if you have, for example, people working, but they are located in different places, it delays messages. Because, for instance, you want a document signed, you have to go to another place and so forth. Lack of website or web page or any point of contact. All these are forms of organizational noise. Psychological noise. So these are, for example, perceptual bias, prejudice. As human beings, we have most of the times issues with judging others, judging the messages. So these biases are psychological noise, problems within us as individuals. So being prejudiced, stereotyped. For example, you see a student that is maybe that looks black, and then you feel that they will speak this particular language, they will understand. So that is psychological noise, because your person doesn't understand, but because you had you thought that because they look in that particular manner, then they have to understand the language. Emotional interference. Sometimes as humans, we may be sad, sometimes the understanding of the message or sending of message. For example, let's say a lecturer comes to work when they are very angry. Maybe they are angry with their child, maybe the child failed in class.
Okay, sorry about that. I think Dr. Kasia is struggling a little bit with her internet, so let's give her just a few minutes to sort that out. Okay, I think we've lost her. Right, well, We were going to do a couple more slides and then wait and have a break. But I think since Dr. Kasia is struggling with her internet now would be the best time for a break. So, oh, here we are. Sorry about this, guys. This happens a lot in our line of work.
I hope you didn't lose me for a long time.
Not so long. So we'll just let you get on with your last couple of slides and then we'll take a break.
All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right. Cultural noise. Cultural noise is also to do with the people having different culture. Humans have they originate from different spaces with different values, different beliefs. But you find that sometimes we may be affected by ethnocentric thinking, unconscious use of our culture as universal yardstick. For example, eating with hands may be presumed the arrogance because in our culture, we feel that a person has to use maybe fork or chopsticks. So that is ethnocentric thinking as noise, stereotypes, as we already said. And also nonverbal communication can also create cultural noise. For example, the way one is dressing, others may think that maybe they cannot tell us anything of substance. The gestures, for example, handshake. Others are not, they don't like handshakes, especially with COVID. Maybe they want you to put a fist, then you find that that is creating cultural noise because you were opening your hand to greet this particular person and the person is giving you a fist. It's like they're not open. You find that that affects what messages you can relay to this particular person. The hugs, others are welcome with hugs, others are not. Also depends on the situation. Use of eye contact, distance, all these can affect communication. Physical or environmental noise. This is to do with obstacles to do with time, space, climate, and also place. So in terms of time, slow internet, it may delay messages. For example, you want to send a message to fellow class members that maybe the class is cancelled, but you find that there was no internet at that particular person at that particular time, and the person is receiving the message late. That affects communication because the meaning that they are supposed to be at this particular place at that particular time, they'll get it late. Or also sometimes due to blackouts. Also space, distance between communicators. If one is in another place where the communicators, the send and receive of messages cannot interact, let's say there's no, they don't have a mobile phone, then they have no access to internet. This can act as environmental noise. Temperature, when it is very hot or cold, this can also affect how we receive messages. So for instance, let's say you want to write and you are very cold, your hands are freezing. And also, as you are receiving messages, you are speaking to some community members, and you find that it is very hot, and others are dozing as you are trying to relay very important message, but people are dozing because of the temperature. And also place, in terms of lighting, if there's no adequate light, people can't see properly. They will not be able to see the nonverbal behavior or also see the messages. The issue of surrounding noise in the place that you're in. For example, let's say there's some sound from a radio or music. in a particular place. Maybe they are doing some promotion, but at the same time, you want to have a meeting. Or also dust. In some places, as we go to the rural, you find that dust can also create noise. Physiological noise. This is to do with physical maladies that prevent effective communication. For example, when you are hungry, you cannot understand messages properly. When you are tired, you have a headache, you have a visual or hearing impairment. So it's to do with now the human body gets tired. You can get a headache, which will affect you to understand the message. Sometimes because of maybe you have visual impairment, you can't even see the slides in the class because your eyes need help. Or sometimes you have hearing issues. So that is physiological noise. Semantic noise is to do with technical words that the sender or recipient may use. So the sender of the message may use technical words, jargons. I gave an example there of a salesman or a waitress, salesman, that is creating noise because salesperson is the right word. Syntactical noise, use of poor grammar, ineffective sentences, lack of clarity, lack of using parallel structures in communication, use of dangling modifiers. These are problems in language use. Subject-verb agreement. If I can give an example for subject-verb agreement, for example, my sister's is going to school. The subject is not agreeing with the verb, but my sisters are going to school. That agrees. And also issues to do with run-ons. I will not take much time to teach you about this grammar, but these are to do with the problems of grammar when the sentences are not clear. Or for example, let's say, so that the meaning, what you meant is not what the other person understands. All right, so basically at this moment, I will stop here and I'll hand over to the host. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Kasia. Really, really fascinating stuff.